A full spectrum hemp extract does the same exact thing as Apoquel does without the harsh side effects. Stay away from isolates. You want a full spectrum. The only way to know that you have a pure therapeutic full spectrum product is by a COA, a certificate of analysis.
If your dog is still scratching, licking their paws, or struggling with recurring flare-ups, and you're wondering whether CBD for dog allergies actually helps itching, then this episode is for you. Now, before we go any further, I want to say something clearly. In today's conversation, you are going to hear strong opinions about CBD, Apoquel, and Cytopoint. This episode is for educational purposes only. It is not medical advice, and it is not a substitute for working with your veterinarian. If your dog is on prescription medication, do not stop or change anything without professional guidance. Ideally with an integrative or holistic veterinarian involved. Our goal here is not to attack conventional medicine. It is to help you understand your options more clearly. My name is Larry, and this is the Next Level Pet Parent Podcast, and we're here to help thoughtful, proactive pet parents support their dog's long-term health with calm, science-based, natural approaches. Today, I'm joined by Angela Ardolino, a certified cannabis and fungi clinician and founder of CBD Dog Health and MycoDog. She has spent years working with pet parents navigating chronic itching, inflammation, and immune-related issues. And she brings a strong perspective on how full-spectrum hemp extracts interacts with the endocannabinoid system in our dogs. In this episode, we're going to be covering 3 key things. First, what CBD actually is and why full spectrum versus isolates matter. Second, how CBD works in the body, especially when it comes to inflammation and immune modulation. And third, how to think responsibly about CBD alongside medications like Apoquel or Cytopoint, including what safe transitions may be involved. If you have been feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, or unsure about what to do next, you are not alone. You are trying to help your dog feel better, and that's what matters. If you care about supporting your dog's long-term health naturally and intelligently, then make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss conversations just like this one. All right, let's dive in.
Hi, Angie. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Good. It's always nice to see your faces.
Yes, we're so excited to have you on today. We've had Carter Easler on before, who is also part of CBD Dog Health. And today we've got you, the founder of CBD Dog Health. So we're super excited to dig a little bit deeper into some common health issues that a lot of pet parents face that we deal with at Podega on a daily basis. So I'm very excited to get your opinion on those.
You bet. I'm happy to help.
So let's start talking and clearing up a little bit of the confusion that is still out there surrounding CBD for pets, hemp for pets. And many pet parents are confused about the difference. So can you, in simple terms, just explain to us what is CBD and how does it differ from hemp oil or THC oil?
CBD is a phytocannabinoid, and it is a cannabinoid that is found in the cannabis plant. And the cannabis plant, everything's the cannabis plant. If that cannabis plant has more THC, it therefore has less CBD. It is considered marijuana. And if that plant has more CBD, it therefore has less THC and is considered hemp. Now, what's confusing about that is that that's completely wrong, but that's what the United States government defined everything as. And so that's the parameters that we're operating under. You're in Germany. It may be different there or other places all over the world, but that's what we're dealing with. CBD and THC are the 2 major cannabinoids. They have to be in the finished product for it to do all of the things that have been proven in research and what I'm going to talk about. It doesn't take much THC, just a little bit, especially for our animals, our dogs. Dogs, we already have research that proves that they have more receptors than we do, and that is why they're more sensitive to THC, but it is not toxic to them and it is not dangerous for them. if it's in a full spectrum or a full cannabis extract. THC isolated, THC added, yes, dangerous, not good. Same thing with CBD. CBD isolated, CBD added, dangerous. We already have research that showed that it caused liver injury. They literally stopped the research because so many liver were damaged and they had to stop the research. So stay away from isolates. You want a full spectrum. What a full spectrum means is that right now we have discovered over 118 cannabinoids. So you've probably heard of CBG, CBN, CBDA, THCA, all of these amazing 118 cannabinoids. There's also terpenes, flavonoids, proteins, fatty acids, thousands of bioactive compounds that all make this medicine work. So all we do is the medicine lives in the flower of the plant. We grow that plant. And my education started with me helping my own rheumatoid. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And so I wanted to take something that was naturally that would help me, because the pharmaceutical drug that is linked, was being prescribed to me, was already linked to lymphoma to cause cancer. Not interested in that. And a full extract of cannabis oil is what I took, that not only got rid of all my pain, my anxiety, stress went away, and I've basically been in remission now for almost 10 years from my disease.
Wow. That's amazing.
And what's cool is that my soul dog, Odie, was diagnosed with degenerative myelopathy at the same time. And I happened to go get my education and learn, and formulated something that both I took and he took. Same formulation. And his degenerative myelopathy never progressed. So he went from 9 years old, stopped running up the steps, to 10, hauling ass up the steps. So, nobody can tell me that it doesn't work, because not only did I experience, but I was able to help my dog. So once I did that for myself, I literally was like, whoa, wait a minute. I feel amazing. There are no side effects. I'm not high. I just feel amazing. I'll never forget feeling pain completely leave my body. Like, I knew I was in pain, but when you live in pain all the time, you don't realize it until it's gone. And then you're like, oh, wow, holy cow. This is how it feels to be at homeostasis, which is, what we're all trying to do. So yes, CBD is just one of 118 different cannabinoids, and one of the two major ones, which is CBD and THC. A CBD isolate is, they have made a pharmaceutical drug out of it. Like I said, it's been researched and it's dangerous. They went away for a while, but they're back now in the marketplace. There's literally institutions, universities teaching people how to make pharmaceuticals out of cannabis medicine. We want to stay away from any isolates. That's what pharmaceuticals are. They're man-made chemical compounds in a lab that are bulk produced. If you guys saw, I get literally an email every week of someone trying to sell me bulk CBD isolate. Sometimes I just want to put it up on the internet and go, see how cheap it is? See how it's being used all over the place? And they use it and then say that it has the same benefits, and it doesn't. It's actually dangerous. So that's what CBD is. It's amazing, but only when it has all of its other compounds helping it. It's called the entourage effect. If you don't have all of those other compounds helping CBD do its job, then it won't work. For instance, the importance of THC. THC is just as important. If it's not in there, you literally are taking away the medicine's ability to do anything. The system that the cannabinoids interact with is called the endocannabinoid system. We all have it. It is the master system in all of our bodies. It's in charge of all of the other systems in our bodies. And if we ignore it, we'll never get back to homeostasis. And though we have two main receptors, the CB1 receptor and the CB2 receptor, that's found all over the body and our cells, they've actually changed the name of the endocannabinoid system to the endocannabinoid to incorporate the gut microbiome. That's how big and important this system is. And CBD, for instance, when you take it, if you take it without THC, which is called a broad spectrum product, CBD doesn't even bind to the receptors. THC has to bind to the receptor first before CBD can. So that's why you have to have it in there. You can't mess. Mother Nature knows what she is doing. She is the master formulator. She has made this incredible medicine that all we have to do is grow it and extract it and preserve it right, and it will do incredible things.
Amazing. Thank you so much for explaining all of that. And
I hope it makes sense. I've said it so many times. I'm like, oh, it's so normal to me.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for explaining all of that. It's very important to understand the difference between CBD versus hemp oil, which does not contain any CBD. But then also CBD is also sometimes called full spectrum hemp oil. So it's very important for consumers to know the difference, to make sure that like when it is CBD that we're actually looking for, it's important obviously to know all the different terms so that we actually get a product that has CBD in it.
But remember, this is unregulated. Anybody can call it anything and put it in. Put it in their bottle. So even right now on certain platforms, we can't say the words full spectrum hemp extract. It's so funny. I just started thinking about this. I'm not sure those terms would exist if it wasn't for me, because they tried to get rid of those terms. But I just kept going, no, this is what you look for. This is what you look for. Now, I wouldn't bother with the terms. Try full spectrum. If it says hemp oil, you need to determine whether that's a full spectrum hemp extract, whether it's an isolate or a broad spectrum product. Right now, I mean, the terms back in 2019, an organization that oversees supplements in the animal space literally tried to change the name of full spectrum to full spectrum without THC, which is the definition of a broad spectrum product.
Yes, exactly.
So the confusion is on purpose. The only way to know that you have a pure therapeutic full spectrum product is by a COA, a certificate of analysis. That is the only thing that is going to prove what is in that bottle you're about to give your dog or cat. On that certificate of analysis, what it shows you is it shows you a cannabinoid profile. So a whole bunch of the cannabinoids listed out, THC and CBD listed. Of course, you want to see that CBD, really a lot of that in there. And then you want to make sure there's a little bit of that THC. So that's what you're looking for. If it does not have that little bit of 0.03% or less THC in there, it is not a full spectrum product. So I can teach you the terms, but I'm telling you guys, everybody's putting whatever they think that you want to hear to get them to buy your product. Also remember that a therapeutic product is not going to be $29.99. It's not even going to be $59.99, because to make a pure product that has as a therapeutic dose, it's not cheap. We've got to grow it a certain way. We've got to harvest a certain way. We extract the way we do extraction is like making a pharmaceutical drug, because it is extracting all of those medicinal properties without damaging them out of the flower. And most don't do that. They'll just do an alcohol extraction and sometimes leave the alcohol in there. But the more potent you make the medicine, the therapeutic doses that you make the medicine usually means it's going to be a little bit more expensive than others. But one dropper does the trick, instead of having to give your animal 10 droppers and now you've given them so much oil and other stuff that not really help them.
Yeah, and we got like a whole episode with Carter about CBD and exactly what it is and the regulations behind it and like the history, and lots of like really deep dives into CBD versus THC and really a lot more info as well. So for anyone listening who is interested in just understanding CBD itself better, definitely listen to the episode with Carter. And today I'm excited to talk more about CBD for allergies and skin health. as well as CBD for pain management and joint health, because we have had
So many cases.
Yeah, we have so many cases every day where pet parents come to us with these concerns. But we've also used CBD when our dog had an IVDD injury, and it was so amazing for her recovery. So yeah, one of the most common struggles that pet parents come to us for, like I said, is constant itching and paw
Yep.
licking and hot spots and allergies.
And
And
yeah,
many dogs,
that's why I saw it too.
and many of them actually are on medications such as Apoquel and Cytopoint for those allergies. And we know that a lot of times, or most of the times, they don't fix the issue long term. And that's what pet parents are seeing too. They say the itching gets a little better, but then as soon as you stop the medication, the allergy problems return. So let's talk a little bit more about how CBD is different from conventional meds and how CBD can help in these cases.
It's funny because I had the same experience. I created my formulas in 2016, but couldn't release them until 2018. So I had a rescue farm that I did case study after case study, adopted, rescued one old dog with problems after another, and literally every time was able to change their diet, wean them off their pharmaceutical drugs, and bring them back to homeostasis. But also during that time, I bought a very busy groom shop. So on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we would get 75 to 100 dogs come through my shop. It was extremely busy. And 85% of the dogs were suffering from allergies, lumps, bumps, pain. So allergies and pain are my gig. And that is what I first started with. How the heck do I start helping these dogs? It was one of the reasons I came up with the salves, because it was, how do I treat these different skin ailments? And then, of course, remember, I have my education from the University of Vermont School of Medicine on the study of cannabis for its therapeutic uses in biology. So I knew how it worked on the skin. And I also knew that dogs have 3 layers of skin and have both the CB1 and CB2 receptors on each layer of skin. So you really can make a huge difference on putting a salve directly on it, whether it be a tumor, an MCT tumor, a hot spot, an irritation, a bug bite, pain, you name it, it will help it. Doing it internally also, perfect. You got it. What I want people to understand, we'll talk about pain first. Pain works through 5 signaling pathways. Pharmaceutical drugs are made to target just one of those pathways. So you never get complete pain relief from a pharmaceutical drug. Not only that, a pharmaceutical drug, especially the pain ones, always have a side effect, and they're usually major. Every pharmaceutical drug is made to be temporary. Pharmaceutical drugs have never cured anything. They're not there to cure the allergy. They're there to stop the reaction of the allergy. They're stopping the body going, hi, something's wrong. We should do something about this. Apoquel or these drugs or this pain meds just go, stop doing that signal. Shut up and turn it off without getting rid of the problem. So on a pain med, you get prescribed a pain med, you go back in, they do blood work to make sure it's not killing the dog too fast. I'm not being funny. That's really what happens. Is your dog still experiencing pain? Yeah, I think he is. They give another one and another one. And when I was rescuing these old dogs, they were on 5 different pain meds and still in pain. Now I know why. Now I know why they were on 5 different ones, because each one targeted something different. And we all know they have side effects. And what do you think happens when we put all of these chemicals together? We don't even know. But when the body receives a chemical that it does not recognize, it has to work overtime to try to remove it from the body. So the liver doesn't know what it is. It has to work on it, metabolize it. A lot of times it gives up, sends it back into the bloodstream so it can do its work. It gets it again, and then it finally gives up and it stores it in our dog's fatty tissues. So that's why we've got old dogs with lumps and bumps all over them. And the last thing we want to do is cut open that lump or bump that's filled with years and years of toxins that the liver has been storing. And remember, that means the liver can't do its job. The liver is supposed to be detoxing us and healing us. It can't do that when it has to battle, these foreign chemicals that it has to deal with every single day. It also destroys the gut microbiome, which is where our immune system lives. So not only do these pharmaceuticals never cure or never stop the pain, they have major side effects. And when taken long term, they will develop into a disease or side effect that will be detrimental to their health and well-being. Cannabis, on the other hand, interacts with all 5 of the signaling pathways. I had my Doberman Nina had osteosarcoma, bone cancer. Can't think of anything more painful. I never had to give her a pharmaceutical drug. I treated her completely holistically. I did give her THC. So I like to think of THC as a full spectrum hemp extract. Think of it as, I know Tylenol is a bad name, but let's just say Tylenol, like a overall general pain reliever. You need extra strength Tylenol, more THC, or add another adaptogen that has been known for pain relief. Because we also have the research that shows us that when you put several adaptogens together, they become much more powerful and synergistic. So that's why you'll always see me putting a combo. And what I'm doing is I'm putting a combo of adaptogens that have already been studied for pain, for cancer, for allergies, or whatever it is. And when you put them together, miracles happen. And it's not miracles. It's how nature is supposed to act, right? Mother Nature provides us with all the food and medicine that we need. And if we can just extract it and preserve it right, we literally have the medicine that we need to help anything. So that's how pain works. On allergies, what's crazy about Apoquel in specific is that a full spectrum hemp extract does the same exact thing as Apoquel does without the harsh side effects. So the way Apoquel works is that it blocks 2 receptors, JAX1 and JAX3 receptor, which basically just turns off the reaction to the irritant. That's all it does. What Apoquel does is that it turns it off. So it suppresses the immune system so that the immune system no longer reacts to the irritation, which then is your dog itching. CBD and a full spectrum hemp extract modulate immune system. So it will block that receptor, stop that itch, the reaction from happening, but it will also heal the pet and bring them back to homeostasis. So it's 1,000,000 times better than a pharmaceutical drug. The problem with Apoquel is that because it depresses, and when I say Apoquel, I'm talking about Cytopoint also, which Cytopoint is just as evil. I feel like I have to say that because how many people have stopped using Apoquel and moved over to Cytopoint? Guys, this information is not, I'm not making it up. You literally can type into Google or ChatGPT, give me the black box warnings or side effects for these drugs, and it will tell you all of them. Apoquel has like cancers I've never heard of before. The other thing that I've just discovered, because I did just finish my first clinical piece of research, which is kind of funny that I did this, but I didn't go research what everybody else does for research. I did what I thought I needed to prove or show. Apoquel has create a pharmaceutical drug. And then in animals, they don't really have to prove anything except that the health of the animal doesn't change in the first 3 months that it takes it.
Wow.
So if you guys started to look at what these drugs research, and this is why I like doing this, because you know how many times I get asked, well, where's the research? Where's the proof? And I'm like, oh, have you looked at the proof for that Rimetal you're giving or that Librela that you're giving? Because Librela did a parent survey. That is all they did. They sent out the drugs and then they surveyed the pet parents for 3 months, and they did it twice. Why'd they do it twice? Because the first 3-month trial, they didn't get the results that they wanted. Or you look at Apoquel and go, how does Apoquel know that a dog under 12 months of age shouldn't get Apoquel? Because they killed puppies. to prove that point. So they will create a research study, can't even make it to the 3 months, stop it because they had too many adverse events, go to another one, start another one. Like Apoquel was like 4. I literally couldn't even figure out what was going on reading the insert. I had to take it into chat and go, why is this happening? Oh, this is what they did. This is what happened. And this is what happens all the time. A veterinarian runs the research center that ran our study, literally was the one that said, you guys, when this man met me, he thought he was meeting a witch. He was a veterinarian for like 20 years, has run this research center for 15 years, doing research studies for pharmaceutical drugs. We're the first all natural product, and he has never in his entire career see something do what we said it would do, ever.
Wow.
So he's the one who's telling us this is normally all they're trying to do is prove that it's not going to change the animal's health, not prove that it actually works. Wow, silly me.
That is crazy.
Did you guys think that that's what research was supposed to be? Was to show us, prove that it actually does what we say it does?
Yeah. Wow, that is crazy.
And then you look and go, what? I'm just like you guys. I'm a crazy ass pet parent. That's all I am. That went and lost one of her dogs, that sent her down this, journey to find out the truth and what was going on. And I cannot believe what I've discovered. And I can't believe that little old me has done the very first piece of clinical research on mushrooms and adaptogen extracts on dogs. Not the company that's been around for 40 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why haven't they done any research? Why don't we have any tests like we do for cannabis showing us exactly what's in a mushroom extract? Because they don't want you to know, because they're controlling the industry. And then disruptors like me come along and go, that ain't good enough. That's not good enough for my dog, and it's not good enough for me. No, that's not. Why are we only putting, 5 milligrams of that mushroom extract when research shows us that 350 milligrams was what was needed to do that action? Because the pet parent doesn't know that.
Yeah.
So that's what you have to understand. So yes, stop taking Apoquel, stop taking Cytopoint. And what I want people to understand, and what often happens, is that because they were suppressing the immune system and they turned the immune system off, when you stop taking these drugs, your immune system comes back on. And usually there's a reaction or a major flare-up that we have to get over. Sometimes we have to give more CBD and mushrooms during that point when we get through it. And some dogs don't. Some dogs are like awesome, and their body is so happy that they don't have those chemicals in there anymore, because then the body literally can do what it's supposed to do. The body has an innate ability to heal itself. If we support it with nature's medicine, it will bring itself back to homeostasis. That's what I love about this research. This is what I loved about my cases at my farm. I could take kibble-fed dogs that were put flea and tick meds on every month, pesticides every month, had the worst, we're doing all the typical stuff, and I would get them, and I still could reverse disease and bring them back to homeostasis. The amount of dogs with IVDD that we have gotten up and walking again. One of my very first cases, the Frenchie hadn't walked for 4 years.
Wow.
That's actually broke up with him. He was an actor. Actually broke up with him and said, "You're torturing the dog. You should put the dog down." He couldn't put the dog down. I happened to just meet him at an event, gave him a heel, and said, "Please, please, 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 please give this to your dog." He went home and he was like, "Whatever, it's not going to work." Literally put it in the dog's mouth, turned around, went upstairs to work in his office, and turned around, and she was standing next to him.
Wow.
Had dragged, when I say dragged, she's like, hasn't used the back end for 4 years. So of course it's weak and she's whatever, but got herself upstairs and is walking again. And people are like, "Oh my God, it's a miracle." I'm like, no, that's what's supposed to happen. When you get rid of inflammation, pain goes away. The communication opens up. The body does what it's supposed to do. And we do. We have to remember that every pharmaceutical drug is based on something, a food, plant, or mushroom that worked in nature. but we can't
Mhm.
patent nature and make billions of dollars off of it. So they just take one component or a couple components or try to remake it in a lab and make a synthetic version of it. And these are synthetic chemicals that we are giving ourselves and our pets, and we don't have to because nature provides it in its full form.
Actually, I just want to run it back a little bit when you were speaking about Apoquel and Cytopoint, because, like, to be honest, like, whenever a pet parent comes to us, first of all, they usually come to us because their pet has some type of skin problem. And when they mention Apoquel or Cytopoint, I'm like, ah, because if I just feel
Me
like
too.
it makes the job so much harder, because what you just said, once they go off of the drug, then they have this rebound effect, and it makes it more challenging because people don't understand, like, oh, what's going on now. But just to, for anybody listening, if you are giving your pet Apoquel or Cytopoint, I think it would be really important to definitely speak with your veterinarian maybe on reducing or trying to get your pet off of that medication. And maybe, like you said, some pets can go off of it right away, but some pets, they really are very dependent on that drug.
Yeah, so in some cases it needs to be done very slowly and definitely under veterinary supervision, preferably a holistic vet or integrative
Yeah.
vet, definitely. And also
I
just to say
really
that,
haven't had that experience
Oh, really?
because I've done it so many times. So yes, it is a reaction and it could be ugly, but it's not life-threatening and it's not hurting the animal. It is the immune system turning back on, and it doesn't always happen, especially if you're doing everything else right. So I know a lot of people who are feeding the right diet or feeding a better diet and really have learned a lot, but still haven't given up on that Apoquel because they just didn't know yet. They're doing all of the other things to support, they won't. But it's not life threatening like some of the other drugs that you cannot just stop and stop giving them. But if you do want to wean, you can start giving them the full spectrum. Ease is my arthritis formula, and we have frankincense extract and turmeric extract. And what's special about that is, talk about entourage effect. Both turmeric and frankincense share some of the same medicinal compounds as cannabis. So when we put them together, it is a powerhouse. There is not a dog, and I've been doing this for 10 years now, that I have not been able to get off of Apoquel and Cytopoint and on to Ease without success.
wow,
Every single
that's
one.
incredible.
Not a single one has gone back. That's why I'm so passionate about it. When I found out about Apoquel, my first case, however long ago, and you have to understand, when I was seeing 75, 100 dogs come into the shop, the majority of them were on these drugs and still were suffering and looked this way. And I mean, every pet parent, I would go, hey, did you see? Did you know? And they'd be like, I know, we're doing everything. We don't know what it's done. We've switched the food. The vet says there's nothing else we can do. Like, same story over and over and over again. And I'd be like, could you try this? Try this. Money back guarantee. Money back guarantee. And if I did have someone go, it's not working, it was usually because they weren't using it right. They were giving drops instead of a full dropper, or, whatever it is. People are also scared of hemp products or cannabis products when they should be scared of the pharmaceutical drugs, that have all the side effects, because these natural products don't have these side effects. So that's what they should be worried about, not a full spectrum hemp extract. And we have, it's called LD50. There is no lethal dose, meaning there's no way you can kill an animal. There's no evidence in the history of the world of cannabis ever, a complete pure product, ever killing anybody, because it does not work that way. It's not going to mess with your heart or your breathing or your brain. The body knows what it is. And as long as it's a pure natural product, which, how do you know that? By checking the COA, it's not going to be, you're not going to have any adverse events. Just like our study, same thing. Not a single adverse event.
Exactly. This is so incredible. And I definitely do want to get back to something that you said in just a minute. I just want to mention for anyone listening right now who has a dog on Apoquel or Cytopoint, please don't feel bad. We all do this the best that we know that we can give our pets, right? And a lot of us are very frustrated, or I mean, honestly, like thankfully I don't have this experience with my own dog, but I have taken care of dogs before where all they do is scratch and it just pains my heart. And I understand there becomes a time when you can't look at this anymore. Your heart is hurting because you see your dog suffer. So if your pet is on Apoquel right now, just know that, this is your first introduction into something that could help or will help, and
Yeah.
maybe
And I'm not
also
trying to
reduce all
scare
these.
you, and I'm certainly not judging you. Remember, I was that pet parent. I lost my dog, my first dog, because I put her health into someone else's hands. I'll never do that again. I will not put my pet or my health in anyone else's hands. If you go to the vet, you say my dog's itching, and they give you Apoquel, and you don't do the research and you don't read those inserts because they're not probably going to tell you it's terrible. They don't have to. Do you know, like right now, Librela has told, I mean, the FDA has told veterinarians they have to hand people that they're prescribing Librela to, they have to hand them the pamphlet telling them all of the adverse events because they're
That's
not
good.
doing it. So
Yeah.
it's not, I want you to realize that I did those same things. I did the pesticides, flea and tick. I did the monthly. I did all of the things. That is my fault that I lost my dog because I did all of those things. But there is something you can do, and the immune system is beautiful, and you can stop and you can bring them back to homeostasis. And yes, nobody's judging you or think you're a bad thing. I once completely trusted the person in the white coat and did whatever they told me. Also, I don't do that anymore. Never again.
Mhm.
I don't care who it is. And even everything that I'm saying, back it up and look. I always want to tell people to look at the person behind the brand or the product. And if you can't find it, move on. And if it's a pharmaceutical drug, look up those side effects, adverse events.
Mhm.
There, you can find the information and realize that all pharmaceutical drugs are a temporary fix. They do not cure
Mhm.
and they do not bring the body back to homeostasis. So even if you want to turn that, I can't stop, I can't take the itching anymore, they can't take the itching anymore. That's what's so crazy about Apoquel. I'll never forget the first time I brought it up to a vet and they're like, "What's wrong with Apoquel? It's incredible." And I go, "It has all these horrible side effects." And they're like, "Wait a minute. Apoquel is only supposed to be used for like 4 or 5 days
Wow,
to
really?
turn
Short
it
time.
off." Yep, turn it
Wow.
off so that we can figure out what the root cause is and solve that root cause. That's how
That is
most
so crazy.
pharmaceuticals should be used, but they're
Yeah.
not. They're used long term and
Mm-hmm.
forever. And I'm anti-pharmaceutical for those reasons. For emergency reasons and we really need it to save a life, absolutely, but that's not, they're
Yeah.
being abused. That's why
Mhm.
my whole talk last year was DARE, drug
Yeah.
abuse
Mm-hmm.
resistance education, because these pharmaceuticals are being abused. The amount of pharmaceuticals that are not even approved for use in animals, like phenobarbital or
Oh, yeah.
gabapentin,
Mhm.
and it's because they're owned by the same company. Pfizer owns
Yeah.
Zoetis, and a drug falls out of favor. And remember, when they create a drug, they spend millions and millions and millions of dollars to create that drug, that chemical in the lab. And they're not going to just get rid of it when it doesn't work in the human realm. Nope. It finds its way over to the vet industry, and now it's
Mm-hmm.
being prescribed for pain or whatever. It's one of those. I don't even think gabapentin interacts with any of the signaling pathways. It does something completely different, doesn't work, has all of these side effects.
Thank you so much for adding that. And explaining that and going into depth, because honestly, that's something I didn't even know, because we have so many pet parents that come to us that say, my dog's been on Apoquel for months and my dog's going to have to be on Apoquel for the rest of their life. Like,
Yeah.
Nope.
and it's just so crazy. So I'm very curious to know more about when you say that you've had experience in getting so like countless dogs off of Apoquel with 100% success rate, moving them onto Ease, which Ease is the CBD full spectrum hemp extract that you have that also includes the turmeric, which is also the same one that we've used for pain management after Milka's IVDD injury. And it's the same one that you would also use for pain and arthritis and joint related issues. So when you say that you've had this 100% success rate, what were some of the other things that you've done with these dogs that you would say a pet parent that's listening that has a dog on Apoquel that wants to also have that 100% success rate? What should they be doing alongside introducing Ease?
What a great question, because you really should try to figure out what the root cause is. And sometimes you can't, especially if you got an old dog or a rescue dog and you have no idea what their history was or, you know, what they were eating or how they're raised. But look at the diet and what you're feeding them first. When I say I have 100%, I even have people who've stayed on kibble who have still have gotten not had to stay on Apoquel. So that's what's so beautiful, is that even when what a full spectrum hemp extract does, what adaptogens do, which turmeric and frankincense both are, and I consider cannabis the queen of adaptogens, is they literally adapt to the stressors of whoever's taking them. So you can take them, I can take them, they're going to do different things. So it is going to bring relief and work on that if you start taking it every single day. So diet is really important. I also love adding more adaptogens like medicinal mushrooms. Reishi is amazing for allergies. And it's weird, right? How does this one bottle of, you know, tincture of tonic of these amazing adaptogens work for both pain and for allergies? Because everything is based on inflammation. So inflammation is the root of all disease and issues. And when you get rid of inflammation, that's when dogs get up and walk again. That's when they stop itching. That's when there's no more pain. So that's literally what it's doing. It sounds like too much of a miracle. How is one bottle of this do all of these things? Well, that is why it's being kept from you. Because if cannabis was legal, if we celebrated, this is not alternative medicine. This is the original medicine that you have been kept from so that the pharmaceutical industry can thrive. Your veterinarian is taught how, your conventional veterinarian, not a holistic or an integrative, but your conventional veterinarian is taught anatomy and physiology, surgery, and how to write prescriptions. They literally are taught how to write prescriptions. You have allergies, you get this. You have IVDD, you get this. And you never get told, hey, environmental exposures, exercise, their food and nutrition. Many conventional vets barely get any diet and nutrition education. And we know that that's the basis of everything. So yes, of course, if I ever had a consult, I was always trying to teach them the basis of feeding them, you know, a real food diet. A lot of times just bringing up things like common allergens in food, or, you know, that's something that I'm big on right now, is how many pet parents are switching the food, are learning, I'm not supposed to do these flea and tick things. I'm not supposed to do this. This is probably what the issue is, and still can't bring their dog back to homeostasis. And it's usually because of synthetic additives or ingredients or isolates hiding in their dog food or their supplements. So you got to read the label. Get to the root. I can always get to the root, especially if I'm on a consult. I'll go, show me everything you're feeding, all the supplements. We'll go through every single one, and I'll be like, that right there, that ingredient, do you know what it is? Do you know what it's doing it? Do you know what? Hold on, let's see if I can remember it. What SiBO2 is? Silicon dioxide. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Sand. Do you know what that does? Disrupts the hell out of your gut. Again, do you think your liver wants you taking sand or sawdust every day?
And what's crazy, yeah, they're everywhere, and even in natural products, right? So even if you think you're giving something natural, it could be hiding within these products. So
Larry
it's so
sand and
important.
Larry sand and sawdust are natural,
Hmm.
but I don't know about
It's
you. I don't
crazy.
want to take dirt and wood. That's not what I
Yeah.
paid for. I paid for
Yeah.
mushrooms or plants or
Hmm.
hemp. Yeah, it is crazy every time. Again, I'm just a crazy pet parent who's just like, "Oh, they do what?" I mean, I remember being in my 20s and thinking everything in the grocery store. I never would thought in a million years that there'd be something on the shelf that could hurt me or kill me. No, that's what most of the shit in the grocery store is, because it's mostly ultra processed and filled with fillers. I love telling the
Hmm.
story. I always usually have a capsule bottle of it somewhere, but capsules, if you're taking any type of capsule or giving your dog any type of capsule, you need to read that label and you need to look at something called the inactive or the other ingredients. And that's where the shit's hiding. You know, you're taking any natural product, there shouldn't be more than like 5, 6 ingredients, and you should understand each one of them and you should know exactly what they are. But
Hmm.
if you see something that you don't recognize or don't know what it is, again, Google it, chat GPT it, or just put it down. You know,
Yeah.
I just posted something yesterday. It says, oh, I want it. I'm going to buy it. Wait, let me check the
Read the
ingredients.
ingredients.
Shit. Got to put it
Put it
back.
back.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I actually did this
Yeah.
with my whole staff, and I made everybody come to the meeting with the supplements that they're taking. And then we all had to turn and read. And I mean, it was, again, and this is a trend also that's important that I think we need to say something about, is that you can find that awesome, pure company doing everything right, and then they get bought. You don't even know that they got
Mm.
bought. And then
Yeah.
ingredients change. So I've
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
can't tell you how many I've disappointed where they're like, I use Thorn. I'm like, Thorn's been
Mhm.
bought. I think it's been bought by Nestle. You don't remember. I don't keep up with the human supplements, but yeah, you got to keep up and make sure.
Yeah.
Or
Mhm.
another thing that I found is when this tariff stuff started happening, I noticed more ingredients showing up in the inactive ingredients on things coming from overseas, meaning they were already
Interesting.
cutting them to
Mm.
make up for the fact that they're not going to put as much of the medicinal
Ah.
bioactive compounds
Mm.
in there anymore. So we have
Wow.
to do it. Again, it's up to us. It's our fault if something happens to our pet. We have to be their best
Mhm.
advocate. We have to read those ingredients. That's why I love people like you who vet the products for the
Mhm.
pet parents and, you know, do all the homework for them, because
Mhm.
it is completely unregulated, guys.
Yeah.
And now that I just found out animal drugs don't even have to prove that they're effective and just prove that they're okay. I started to write it down. Cytopoint's research, 56 days. Librella, 90 days. And only did surveys. Apoquel, 14 days for their first
Crazy.
study. Librella has over 17,000 adverse events already. And the FDA has sent a letter to veterinarians reminding them that this drug is dangerous, telling them they have to give the insert to the pet parents, and it still hasn't been removed from the market. I
It's been
actually,
crazy.
there's a class action suit now, which is great, which I'm supporting and helping and telling everyone about. But if your dog is on Librella, please take them off Librella. Librella is horrible. I thought Apoquel was bad. Librella,
Mm.
they rushed to market within a year. We've had these 17,000 adverse events. We have tons of veterinarians who are making the adverse events. They don't care about our pets, guys. They
Mm.
don't care. Remember, in the United States, animals are considered property. So if I make Librella, you take it and it kills your dog and you sue me, the judge is going to go, how much were your vet bills? And I don't know about you, but that's not acceptable to me. That's my family member, and you told me this was going to help with pain, and it killed them. And
Mhm.
it's ridiculous the amount of money we have to pay, how it tears us apart, our family, or takes away, you know, a family member, and it's not okay. So when a class action happens, I think it's a beautiful thing. It's a way for us all to come together and actually hold these pharmaceutical companies accountable, because there is no They imagine being an evil player. What a great place to end up in the pet industry. And I'm a cannabis clinician for everybody, humans.
Mm-hmm.
I chose the animal space for this reason. And I cannot believe how many bad players are in it, taking advantage of our love for our animals because there are no repercussions. Did you know that in Mexico, animal rights just became equal to humans?
No, I
No,
haven't
I didn't
heard of
know
that.
that. But I
Yep.
know that they do have I do hear a lot about the animal space. Like I just heard something about the dolphins, like, or the
Yep.
whales, like they
Yep.
banned that now.
Yep. So no more factory farming, no more animals being, shut up in cages, no more animal testing. So literally they have equal rights. And in my opinion, I would love to make that happen in this country. I don't know how, but it's true. It's just like it's just not fair. They're not here for our disposal or to experiment on. That's what I feel like more than anything is they just create these drugs. They're like, oh, we'll sell a whole bunch of it. And now, like, we're watching Librela just do a huge push marketing campaign. And I'm like, yeah, because they're going to have to pay for that $15 million settlement because the proof is there. I just think it's terrible that right now a pet parent is in a vet office and it's being prescribed and they are not being told whatsoever about this horrible drug and what it does. FDA doesn't even have time to approve drugs or do what they're supposed to do for human space. And they literally have something called not yet approved, but legally allowed to market category. So that means these big pharmaceutical companies like a Zoetis creates a drug. FDA goes, oh, it's you. Yeah, go ahead. And it gets pushed through. And it hasn't even been approved by the FDA. So every year there's like 2,000 drugs that get introduced into the marketplace that have never been approved. So those of you who think that the doctor, the veterinarian giving you that drug has done its research, made sure it's safe or whatever, they're not. They're just doing what they were taught in school, which is this is for this. Great. Awesome. Now we have something for this. And they don't get told all the information. So it's up to us to research it and make sure it's safe for our pets.
And it's with Milka's IVDD injury. Like, I actually, when she first had that injury, thankfully Milka's IVDD injury was mild, which I believe is because of the years of prevention that we had done with her at that point. So her injury wasn't like surgical, for example. And after that happened to her, I, joined Facebook groups and stuff for other Frenchies who have IVDD. And I was just so shocked to like see how many Frenchies have IVDD, how early they have it, and on how many pain medications they're on and different pain meds and, all of these different things. And I was really grateful that we had CBD during that time. How often did she get it? Like 2-3 times a day, I think.
Something like that.
Alongside, all her other supplements. And we also did red light therapy with her and stuff like that. But I really, she recovered 100% naturally. But I'm just so glad that, she was fine. And sometimes people online, they're like, yeah, but, dogs need pain meds, right? But I just think
it is
your
a pain
dog
med.
and exactly.
Yeah.
It is. And your dog, right? When your dog has pain, what the signs of pain are. And for us, we can say that it definitely helped Milka. So
yeah, I want people to
have that
consider it
option
as the ultimate pain med because it's interacting with all 5 of those signaling pathways of pain when a pharmaceutical drug isn't doing that. You may notice that on my logo is a Frenchie. And it is a Frenchie because that's what I saw at my shop too. I don't think I had a single healthy Frenchie. And also,
Wow.
and there's a lot of bad breeding. They have lots of breathing problems, which is why Breathe was created and help them. Yeah, Frenchies have a lot of problems. And this is what I want people to understand is that if you do have a breed that is susceptible to more issues or problems, that's literally when things start going wrong. You take them, they start getting old. They're seniors, when they're about 7, and they go in for pain and they get a pain med and then another one and another one. And now we've disrupted the gut microbiome. We've shut the immune system off. And that's when things start going downhill. And that's why we lose them, at 10, 12, 14, because they've had a lifetime of pharmaceutical drugs and their body just can't keep them healthy anymore. Getting a Frenchie to age 10 is a huge accomplishment and something that should be celebrated. I know she just celebrated her 10th year, her 10th birthday. But it is, they need special care. And that's what I saw. They were all, whether it was pain, whether it was breathing. And the Frenchie that's actually on my logo his name is Romeo. And it was a client of ours who died from, we don't know, overheating or, couldn't breathe, rushed him, and they couldn't even get a tube down his throat because it was so small.
Wow.
So breeding things, bad breeding, not that every Frenchie's bad, breeding, but when I got Nina, my Doberman, I immediately looked up and went, okay, what are the things I need to look out for a Doberman? And it was funny because I was so concentrating on the heart, and then she got osteosarcoma. And that's where I learned 1 in 9 large breed dogs gets osteosarcoma. If I were to ever get a large breed dog again, I would start her on a full spectrum hemp extract immediately as a puppy to just, again, all it's doing, all these plants, mushrooms, cannabis are doing is supporting the body's innate ability to heal itself. It's just supporting them. Like, it literally trains our cells to become natural killer cells and surveillance our body and remove any rogue cancer, anything. And then when it does kill them, it then does something called autophagy and removes them from the body. I mean, to me, the fact that as we age, we don't regenerate neurons anymore. Our telomeres, which is, what is in our DNA of our mitochondria, starts to shrink. And the fact that there are plants and mushrooms that we can consume and they regrow and regenerate neurons is proof to me that these plants and mushrooms are there for us and our animals. I mean, right? How crazy is that?
Yeah.
This is what happens, and here's the plant that's going to help it regenerate.
Yes, absolutely.
The fact that our endocannabinoid system is producing endocannabinoids, and these endocannabinoids are responsible for keeping us at homeostasis. If we have a deficiency, there just so happens to be the cannabis plants, which produce phytocannabinoids that we take and fill those deficiencies. We've got plants that produce hormones. We've got plants, everything a pharmaceutical drug does because it came from a plant or a mushroom. Most antibiotics come from a mushroom. My whole thing is skip that pharmaceutical drug and go find that original medicine in its whole form and take that. And then you're going to have that entourage, that whole effect of bringing yourself back to homeostasis or bringing your dog back to homeostasis.
Thank you so much, Angie. If there are pet parents listening today that are completely new to CBD and they might feel a little bit overwhelmed right now and they're not sure where to start, what's the first step that you think they can take to explore CBD for their pet?
They can contact you guys. You guys are pretty good, educated now. I always like to go to someone who has done the homework and vetting themselves. They can contact us. My website, both Angela Ardolino and CBD Dog Health, both have tons of education on there. But yeah, talk to someone who does know if you're not sure. But the beauty of it is that if it is a pure product with a COA, you cannot do any harm. You can only help them. Just make sure that it's a pure product. You've got to check that COA or just go to folks like you who've already done the vetting and know what's going on in the industry. I also love projectcbd.org is also a beautiful website that literally you can type in any ailment and it will show you all the research and proof of how CBD helps that ailment.
Nice.
I have like a guide on my website that literally, when I started my research, I just started to like write down the mushroom, write down the ailment, and then which mushrooms worked for what, which I'm happy to send to you guys if you want to send to people, because all the research is there. It's all been done to prove that these adaptogens do these wonderful things. You just don't know about it. And then after you see the research, then you've got to find the pure product that's making it that way. So for instance, all my products are made that one dropper was the therapeutic dose found to work for most animals in research. But every animal is different. So some animals may need more and some may need a little bit less, but that's what basically should work. And don't be scared of it because it's pure and the body knows what to do with it.
Amazing. Awesome. Yeah, CBD dog health products are all available on our website, podega.us. We've got your tinctures, your salves, your treats, everything.
Did you try the Nourish? Did you get the Nourish? The new Nourish?
Is that with the mushrooms inside?
Yep.
No,
So
we don't have that yet, but it will be in
good.
our store soon.
Yeah, Nourish, I just reformulated and put reishi extract in it because of all the benefits of skin. Yeah, so every day in my office, I'm like sitting here just covering myself with it. Yeah. Great for anti-aging, especially for us humans too, or us paler humans that get sunspots.
For everyone listening, if you are ready to get your dog on actually the best CBD product on the market for pets, definitely head to podega.us and you can use the discount code CBD for 10% off your next order as a thank you for listening to this podcast. And on our website, the brand is actually called Hemp Dog Health. I don't know if you want to say something about that, but
yeah, hemp dog health because CBD is a pharmaceutical drug. Anytime we use the words CBD, they think that we're trying to pretend that we're a pharmaceutical drug, which is hilarious because I hate pharmaceutical drugs. So I'm like, no, go away. I want nothing to do with you. So yes, anytime something has the letter CBD in it, it's a red flag and gets hit. So we have both CBD dog health and hemp dog health, but they are the same thing. It's just so that we don't get shut down or turned off or whatever because they think we're trying to be a pharmaceutical drug. Yeah, anything. They really make it really difficult for you guys to get to natural medicine. I just think it's amazing when I do watch the news, which isn't very often. It's usually when I'm traveling and I see them going, there's new research on a new drug for cancer. And I'm like, we don't need another drug for cancer. We already know that cannabis interacts with all 8 of the 12 pathways of cancer. We know these things. And then, when we go on commercial break, what am I getting? I'm getting pharmaceutical ads for humans and for pets, bombarded. So it literally is, they know your dog is itching. They know your dog is in pain and they're trying to offer you that solution. Just do your homework, make sure it's not going to hurt them.
Well, thank you so much, Angie, for taking the time today to talk to us about these very, very important pet health topics. And we know that our listeners got so much goodness out of this talk today.
Good. I just want everyone to learn about these wonderful medicines, natural medicines.
Before you go, take a quiet moment with me. If this episode made you pause, if it made you rethink what you have been told, I just want you to remember this. You don't have to stay stuck. You are not powerless, and you are not alone in this. Start with one small step, read the label, ask one better question. Make one change that you can actually sustain. That is how real transformation happens for our dogs and cats. And if you want to explore any of the products that we talked about today, you can grab everything on podega.us and use the code CBD to save 10% off your next CBD dog health order at podega.us. Thank you for being the kind of pet parent who shows up, listens, and does the work. We will see you in the next episode of the Next Level Pet Parent Podcast.